Lieutenant Emma Roberts sat at her desk in the quiet space station, staring at the green lights on her computer screen. For 3 years, she had listened to the sounds of space every day. Most of the time, there was nothing but silence and the soft hum of stars far away. Today felt different. The space station Kepler-7 floated alone between Earth and Mars. Emma was one of 12 people who lived there, listening for signals from other worlds. Every day was the same: coffee, computer checks, listening to empty space, more coffee, reports to Earth. She had almost stopped believing they would ever find anything interesting. At exactly 2:47 in the afternoon, everything changed. A sharp beeping sound came from her speakers. Emma looked up from her lunch, expecting to see another broken satellite or space junk sending random signals. Instead, her screen showed something that made her heart beat faster. The signal was not random at all. It had patterns, like music or math, but unlike anything humans had ever made. Emma's hands shook as she ran the signal through every test she knew. She checked it against radio signals from Earth, from old space missions, from broken equipment floating in space. Nothing matched. This was something completely new. "Commander Blake," she shouted across the small room. "Come here right now." Commander James Blake was a big man with gray hair and kind eyes. He had been in space for 20 years and had seen everything that could go wrong with equipment. He walked over to Emma's desk, expecting to help fix another broken machine. "What's the problem, Emma?" he asked, looking at her worried face. "Listen to this," she said, playing the signal again. The sound filled the room, a series of beeps and tones that seemed to follow a pattern. It was like someone was trying to send a message using math and music together. Blake listened carefully, his face growing more serious with each second. "How long have we been getting this signal?" he asked quietly. 17 minutes now," Emma replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "James, I've run every test I can think of. This is not from Earth. This is not from any human machine. Someone else is out there, and they're trying to talk to us." Blake felt his stomach drop. In all his years in space, he had dreamed of this moment and feared it at the same time. First contact with aliens was something humans had talked about for hundreds of years. Now it was really happening, and he was not sure anyone was ready. Emma worked frantically on her computer, trying to understand more about the signal. "There are numbers hidden in the message," she said. "Coordinates. Someone is telling us where to find them." "Where?" Blake asked. "The Vega sector, about 4 to 7 light years from Earth. James, I think someone out there needs help. This sounds like a distress call." Blake walked to the window and looked out at the stars. Somewhere among those tiny lights, an alien civilization was calling for help. The weight of the moment pressed down on him like a heavy blanket. This decision would change everything for humanity. Within hours, emergency meetings started on Earth. Politicians, scientists, and military leaders argued on video calls that stretched across the planet. Emma watched the debates from her station, feeling frustrated as people who had never been in space made decisions about what to do. Senator Margaret Hill appeared on the main screen, her face red with anger. "We cannot trust this signal," she said firmly. "We know nothing about these aliens. This could be a trap to lure our ships away from Earth. We should ignore the signal and focus on protecting ourselves." But Dr. Michael Foster, Earth's top expert on the possibility of alien life, disagreed strongly. "These beings are dying out there," he said, his voice full of emotion. "If we turn our backs on the first intelligent life we have found in the universe, what does that say about who we are as human beings?" The arguments went on for hours. Some people wanted to send just robots to investigate. Others wanted to send a massive military fleet. A few suggested doing nothing at all and pretending they never received the signal. Blake listened to all the debates, but his mind was already made up. He had not spent his entire career in space to hide when someone needed help. He began making quiet preparations to launch a rescue mission. He chose his team carefully. Captain David Turner would lead the medical ship called Hope, bringing doctors and equipment to help the aliens. Dr. Lisa Hayes would command the science vessel Discovery, bringing the smartest people he knew to study and understand the alien technology. Blake himself would captain the Guardian, a military ship that could protect the others if anything went wrong. The night before they planned to leave, Blake stood alone in his quarters, looking at Earth through the small window. The blue and green planet looked so peaceful from space, but he knew that down there, people were afraid. Tomorrow, he would take humanity's first steps into a galaxy they knew nothing about. His team was small, just 3 ships and 90 people total. If the politicians had their way, they would spend years planning and debating. But the alien signal was getting weaker each day. Whatever was out there would not wait for human politics to resolve. Blake made his final preparations and sent a message to Earth. "We are going to answer the call," he said simply. "Someone out there needs help, and helping others is what makes us human. We will make contact carefully and peacefully. Wish us luck." As the three ships prepared to jump to faster-than-light speed, Blake whispered a prayer to whatever forces controlled the universe. He hoped that humanity would prove worthy of the trust being placed in them by desperate voices calling across the stars. The journey to first contact had begun. The alien ship looked like a giant crystal floating in the darkness of space. Captain David Turner pressed his face against the window of his medical ship Hope, trying to understand what he was seeing. The vessel was enormous, longer than 15 football fields, and it glowed with soft rainbow colors that shifted and moved like living light. "The ship is dying," reported Lieutenant Tom Wilson from his computer station. "Power levels are dropping fast. Whatever is keeping the aliens alive will not last much longer." Commander Blake's voice came through the radio from his ship Guardian. "Dr. Hayes, what are we looking at here?" On the science ship Discovery, Dr. Lisa Hayes stared at her screens in amazement. Nothing in her 20 years of studying space had prepared her for this. "James, this ship was not built like our ships. It looks like it was grown, like a plant or a tree. I can detect thousands of life forms inside, but their signals are getting weaker." "Sir," Captain Turner said into his radio, "we are receiving a new transmission from the alien ship." What came through their speakers was unlike anything they had ever heard. Instead of words or sounds, waves of emotion seemed to flow directly into their minds. They felt gratitude, surprise, and underneath it all, a desperate hope that their long journey through space might finally be over. "They are trying to communicate with us," Dr. Hayes said, her voice full of wonder. "They are not using words. They are sending thoughts and feelings directly to our brains." Blake made the most important decision in human history. "All ships, prepare to dock with the alien vessel. Turner, get your medical team ready. We are going inside." The docking process was gentle and strange. The alien ships seemed to welcome their smaller vessels, opening ports that sealed perfectly around their airlocks. When the doors finally opened, humanity stepped into a completely alien world. The inside of the ship was beautiful beyond description. The walls curved in impossible spirals, glowing with soft light that seemed to come from within the material itself. The air shimmered with energy, and everything felt alive, as if the ship itself was breathing. Then they saw the aliens. The beings were tall, almost 7 feet, and their bodies were made of what looked like living crystal. Light moved through their transparent skin in patterns that were mesmerizing to watch. When they moved, they flowed like water, graceful and elegant. But many of them lay still in crystal beds, their inner light dim and flickering like dying candles. One alien approached the human team. Its crystalline body radiated complex emotions, wonder, relief, and deep sadness all mixed together. When it spoke, the words formed directly in their minds. "We are the Veiltar. You came. Across the vast darkness, you heard our call and came to us." Dr. Hayes stepped forward, her scientific training battling with the overwhelming emotional experience of the contact. "We are humans. We received your distress signal. We want to help you." The alien's light pulsed brighter with surprise. "Help? Your species risks itself for strangers? This is not the way of most who travel between the stars." Captain Turner activated his medical equipment, trying to understand how the alien bodies worked. "What happened to your people?" Suddenly, images flooded their minds like a movie playing directly in their thoughts. They saw a beautiful world with 2 suns, crystal cities that sang with harmonious music, and millions of beings living in perfect peace with their environment. Then came the darkness, their star beginning to die, deadly radiation poisoning the crystal bodies of their people, and a desperate escape as their world burned behind them. "We are the last," the being continued, its mental voice heavy with grief. "Our world sang its final song 3 years ago. The great darkness took everything we were, everything we had built. Only a few thousand of us remain, and we fade like dying stars." Blake felt the enormous weight of the moment. These beings had traveled impossible distances through space, watching their friends and family die one by one, holding on to the tiny hope that someone, somewhere, would answer their call for help. "We will help you," he said firmly, though he had no idea how. "Earth has room for you. Our doctors will find a way to save your people." The Veiltar being seemed to glow with pure emotion. "Earth? Is that the name of your world? You would share your home with dying strangers." "That is what humans do," Dr. Hayes replied, hoping it was true. "We help each other survive." The next few hours were a blur of activity. Human doctors worked alongside Veiltar healers, trying to translate alien biology into something they could understand. The language barrier slowly broke down as both species learned to communicate through shared emotions and simple concepts. The Veiltar were amazed by human willingness to help strangers. In all their travels through space, they had never encountered beings who would risk everything for people they had just met. Most space-traveling species they knew were territorial and aggressive, interested only in protecting their own kind. Meanwhile, humans marveled at a civilization built entirely on harmony and cooperation. The Veiltar had never known war, never fought among themselves, never competed for resources. Their entire culture was based on working together and sharing everything they had. Captain Turner found that Veiltar biology was incredibly complex but surprisingly adaptable. Their bodies are like living computers made of crystal, he explained to Blake. The radiation poisoning is disrupting their internal energy patterns, but I think we can help stabilize them. As human medical teams began treating the dying aliens, Dr. Hayes explored the vast database stored in the ship's memory banks. What she found there would change everything humanity thought they knew about the galaxy. Deep in the alien records, she discovered images that made her blood run cold, vast fleets of dark ships moving between stars, consuming entire worlds, leaving behind only empty space where civilizations once thrived. The Veiltar had not fled from natural disaster. They were running from something far worse, something that was still out there, still hunting, still destroying everything in its path. Dr. Lisa Hayes had not slept for 3 days. She sat in her laboratory on the Discovery, surrounded by alien technology that hurt her brain to look at. The Veiltar had given humans access to their entire history, stored in crystal devices that projected images directly into the air. What she found in those records made her hands shake with fear. "Commander Blake," she called over the radio, her voice tight with panic. "You need to come here immediately. Drop everything and come now." Blake arrived to find Hayes staring at floating pictures that showed a map of half the galaxy. Hundreds of star systems were marked with red dots, and they formed a clear pattern across space like a disease spreading through a body. "What am I looking at, Lisa?" Blake asked, though something in his stomach already knew the answer would be terrible. "The truth about why the Veiltar are really running," she replied, manipulating the holographic display with shaking fingers. "Their son did not die naturally. It was murdered." The images shifted to show surveillance footage from deep space. Massive ships, darker than the emptiness between stars, surrounded the 2 suns of the Veiltar home system. Beams of unknown energy shot out from these ships, causing the stars to become unstable and die millions of years before they should have. "Meet the Devourers," Hayes continued, her voice barely above a whisper. "That is what the Veiltar call them. They are not explorers or conquerors like in our science fiction movies. They are harvesters of entire civilizations." Blake studied the tactical information with growing horror. The Devourer ships were enormous, some as large as Earth's moon. Their technology seemed to break the laws of physics, creating weapons that could kill stars and strip planets bare of all life. "How long has this been happening?" he asked. "Nearly 2,000 years, Hayes replied, calling up more historical data. "They move from star system to star system in a careful pattern, taking everything of value and destroying everything else." The Veiltar were part of something called the Coalition of Lights, more than 40 different alien species working together to fight back. "Were?" Past tense. Hayes activated another display showing the slow collapse of galactic civilization over centuries. The Coalition held them back for almost 800 years, but the Devourers learn and adapt faster than anyone can develop new defenses. One by one, every member species was defeated and destroyed. According to these records, only scattered refugees remain, hiding in the far edges of the galaxy. Captain David Turner entered the laboratory, having heard enough of the conversation to understand they were discussing something terrible. "Please tell me there is some good news hidden in all this information." "There is some," Hayes replied, though her face remained grim. "The Devourers follow predictable patterns when they expand their territory. They completely control each area they conquer before moving to the next target. Based on their current location and their historical behavior, we can calculate where they will go next." She manipulated the star map, drawing a red line through space that showed the projected path of conquest. The line moved steadily through the galaxy, consuming everything in its way. At the end of the projection, a small blue dot marked a very familiar star system. "Our solar system," Blake whispered, feeling cold despite the warm air in the laboratory. 5 years, Hayes confirmed. "Maybe 6 if we are lucky and they encounter unexpected resistance somewhere." "But James," Earth is directly in their expansion path. There is nowhere in the galaxy we can run that they will not eventually follow. The three humans stood in complete silence, trying to understand what this meant for their entire species. Humanity had barely learned to travel between planets, and now they faced an enemy that had spent thousands of years perfecting the art of destroying entire civilizations. What do the Veiltar think we should do? Turner asked. That is the biggest problem, Hayes replied, pulling up more data. They do not have any suggestions. Their entire civilization was built on peace, cooperation, and harmony with nature. They never developed military thinking the way humans have. The concept of sneaky tactics or surprise attacks is almost impossible for them to understand. Blake began pacing around the laboratory, his military mind already working through scenarios that seemed hopeless. What about their technology? Surely they have weapons we can use. They have energy shields that are far more advanced than anything we have ever built, Hayes explained. They have communication systems that work instantly across the entire galaxy, and medical technology that can help people live for hundreds of years. But weapons designed for war. She shook her head sadly. The coalition relied on having more ships and better defenses. When those advantages were not enough. She did not need to finish her sentence. The map full of dead star systems told the story clearly enough. We need to send this information to Earth immediately, Blake decided. Every government, every military leader, every scientist needs to see this. If humanity is going to survive, we need to start preparing right now. Turner looked at the projected timeline again. 5 years to prepare for an enemy that has been destroying civilizations for 2,000 years. How can one small planet stand against something like that? As they worked to compose an urgent message to Earth, none of them wanted to admit what they were all thinking, that they might be writing humanity's death sentence. How could Earth's small military forces fight an enemy that had consumed half the galaxy? In the medical bay of the Hope, Turner watched human doctors working side by side with Veiltar healers, both species sharing knowledge despite the communication difficulties. Maybe there was something in that cooperation, something the galaxy had never seen before, that could make a difference. But 5 years seemed like such a terribly short time to save an entire world from an enemy that had never been defeated. The warning was sent to Earth within hours, carrying with it the weight of galactic history and the desperate hope that humanity might somehow find a way to break a pattern of conquest that had continued for nearly 2 millennia. 6 months after first contact, Earth looked completely different from space. Where once there had been a few small space stations, now massive construction platforms surrounded the planet like metal rings. Commander James Blake stood on the observation deck of the new battle station Defiance, watching work crews install strange crystal technology on human warships. The integration is going better than we hoped, reported Dr. Lisa Hayes, looking at data on her computer tablet. The Veiltar crystal technology works with our power systems, but we had to completely redesign how our ships are built. Beside them, the Veiltar coordinator that humans called Echo glowed with soft blue light. The aliens' thoughts formed words in their minds. Your species learns very quickly. In 6 months, you have mastered technology that took our people many generations to develop. But your minds work differently than ours, you see patterns of fighting that we cannot understand. Blake nodded seriously. The cultural exchange between humans and Veiltar had been eye-opening for both species. Humans brought military thinking and war strategies that the peaceful Veiltar had never needed to develop. In return, the crystal beings shared technology that made human dreams of defense possible, energy shields that could stop planet-destroying weapons, communication systems that worked faster than light, and power sources that could run massive defensive stations. How is the training program going? Blake asked Captain David Turner, who had just entered the observation lounge. It is very challenging, Turner replied with a tired smile. Teaching Veiltar refugees basic military concepts is like trying to explain music to someone who has never heard sound. They understand why it is necessary, but their entire culture is built on peace and working together. Echo's crystalline form pulsed with confused emotions. Your warriors frighten us, not because they are cruel, but because they are so capable of violence. You speak of tactics, strategies, and deceptions as if they were normal parts of life. We wonder, how did your species survive long enough to reach the stars with such aggressive instincts? We learn to control them, Blake replied thoughtfully. Humans do not just fight against things, we fight for things we care about. For our families, our homes, our future. The Devourers do not understand that kind of motivation. Earth's response to the crisis had brought humanity together in ways no previous emergency ever had. Every nation on the planet contributed money, scientists, and soldiers to the joint defense effort. Dr. Michael Foster led teams that were studying Veiltar biology and technology, while Admiral Catherine Stone coordinated the largest military buildup in human history. But not all humans supported the war effort. The separatist movement is getting stronger, Turner reported during their daily meeting. Senator Margaret Hill is leading a group that wants to abandon Earth and flee to the outer space colonies. They are calling it strategic relocation, but it is really just running away. Blake felt his jaw muscles tighten with anger. Running deeper into space will not save us. The Devourers have been consuming entire galaxies for thousands of years. There is nowhere we can hide that they will not eventually find us. Echo radiated confusion through its mental voice. Your species fights against itself even when facing complete extinction. It is human nature, Dr. Hayes explained patiently. When we are afraid, some of us want to fight, while others want to run away. The important thing is making sure the fighters have everything they need to succeed. The joint training exercises between humans and Veiltar had become fascinating to watch. Human Marines taught Crystal refugees how to operate defensive weapon systems, while the aliens shared their advanced sensor technology that could detect Devourer ships from incredible distances. Lieutenant Emma Roberts, now working as a translator between the two species, observed a particularly intense training session. Human pilots worked alongside Veiltar navigators, whose crystal-based perception allowed them to understand spatial relationships in ways human minds could never match. The combined effectiveness was remarkable. They are learning fast, she reported to Blake. The Veiltar may not understand aggressive warfare, but they are better at defensive coordination than anyone. When they say their shields are singing in harmony, it actually means something very important for battle tactics. The major breakthrough came from an unexpected discovery. Dr. Hayes was analyzing old Devourer combat footage from the Veiltar historical archives when she noticed something the peaceful aliens had completely missed: behavioral patterns that revealed a critical weakness in their enemy. They are not individual thinking beings, she announced during an emergency strategy meeting. Look at their ship movements, their tactical responses to different situations. Every Devourer force operates like a single giant organism. They do not adapt well to unpredictable or chaotic combat situations. Admiral Stone leaned forward, studying the tactical displays with interest. Are you saying they cannot handle unconventional warfare tactics? Exactly, Hayes replied with growing excitement. The Coalition of Lights fought them using traditional military methods, organized fleets, predictable strategies, honorable combat between equals. But humans are different. Humans are very good at controlled chaos. Echo's mental voice carried deep confusion. We do not understand this concept. How can chaos be controlled? Watch and learn, Blake replied with a grim smile, beginning to outline the strategy that would either save Earth or ensure that humanity died fighting rather than surrendering. As construction continued on defensive installations throughout the solar system, both species worked together with desperate intensity. The Veiltar refugees had found something they thought they had lost forever: hope that the Devourers could be stopped. And humanity had discovered they were not alone in the universe just in time to fight for their survival. The enemy was coming, but they had never encountered anything quite like human stubbornness combined with advanced Veiltar technology. The alliance between a warrior species and a peaceful one was about to be tested in the greatest battle the galaxy had ever seen. Both species knew that failure meant the end of everything they held dear, but success might change the balance of power in the galaxy forever. The Devourers arrived 3 months before anyone expected them. Commander James Blake stood in the control room of Battle Station Defiance, watching his computer screens fill with red warning dots as the enemy fleet appeared at the edge of Earth's solar system. The number of enemy ships was much worse than their worst predictions. Admiral Stone, we are counting more than 800 large enemy ships, reported Lieutenant Emma Roberts, keeping her voice calm despite the terrifying sight on her screens. Energy readings show at least 12 ships big enough to destroy entire planets. Admiral Catherine Stone's face appeared on the main communication screen from her warship Indomitable. All stations, this is Stone. Begin Operation Last Stand. All human and Veiltar forces, move to defensive positions. This is what we have trained for. The Devourer fleet moved through space with perfect organization, their dark ships arranged in geometric patterns like a deadly mathematics problem. As they moved toward the inner solar system, they began charging their Starkiller weapons to destroy Earth's sun. Echo, are your people ready for this? Blake asked the Veiltar coordinator. The crystal being's thoughts filled his mind with determination mixed with fear. We sing as one voice with your warriors, Commander Blake. Our shields work in harmony with your weapons. Today, The combined music of our two peoples will be heard across the entire galaxy. Dr. Lisa Hayes watched the approaching enemy from her science station. James, they are not changing from their historical attack patterns. Same formation, same approach they have used for centuries. They are not expecting any real resistance from us. Then let's give them something they have never seen before, Blake replied. All ships, begin protocol chaos. What happened next would be remembered and studied for generations. Instead of meeting the Devourers with traditional fleet battles, the Human Veiltar Alliance unleashed something completely new in galactic warfare, controlled unpredictability. Human ships, protected by Veiltar crystal matrix shields, attacked from impossible directions using guerrilla tactics developed over centuries of human conflict. They did not engage in honorable ship-to-ship combat like the old coalition forces had done. Instead, they ambushed enemies from asteroid fields, used gravity from planets as weapons, and coordinated attacks that made no sense according to normal military rules. Captain David Turner commanded a group of hybrid fighter ships that seemed to dance around the massive Devourer formations. Turner to all units, remember the plan, do not fight their kind of battle. Make them fight our kind of battle instead. The Veiltar contribution was equally important. Their harmonic shield technology created protective bubbles that defended entire battle groups, while their crystal-based perception allowed them to coordinate defensive moves within human precision. But the battle was far from easy. We are losing our outer defenses, Admiral Stone reported as Devourer planet-killer ships began systematically destroying human defensive stations. They are adapting to our tactics faster than we projected. That was when the impossible happened. Admiral. Emma Roberts called out, her voice filled with amazement. I am detecting new ships coming out of hyperspace. Multiple unknown ship designs, but they are not hostile. The tactical display suddenly filled with friendly contact symbols. Ships of dozens of different designs, representing alien species that the galaxy thought were extinct, emerged from hiding throughout the solar system. Echo translated the flood of alien communications. The Silent Watchers have seen enough. Your defiance has awakened hope throughout the Outer Rim worlds. The survivors of the old coalition are returning to fight. Dr. Hayes could barely contain her excitement. James, these are species that have been hiding for decades, maybe centuries. They have been watching and waiting for someone to actually stand up to the Devourers successfully. The tide of battle changed dramatically. Crystalline Veiltar ships worked in perfect coordination with angular vessels from the surviving hegemony worlds. Living bioships from the Organic Collective provided cover for sleek craft from the machine consciousness. And at the center of it all, human vessels coordinated the controlled chaos with a tactical flexibility that none of the other species could match. The combined fleet fought like nothing the galaxy had ever seen. Each species contributed their unique strengths while human tactical thinking bound them together into an effective fighting force. For the first time in over 1,000 years, the Devourers were not just being resisted, they were being defeated. But victory came at a terrible price. Admiral Stone's flagship took a direct hit from a Devourer battleship, her final radio transmission cutting off in static. Half of Earth's orbital defense stations lay in burning ruins. The Veiltar refugee ship Crystal Song sacrificed itself to save the Mars colonies, its entire crew dying in a brilliant explosion of harmonized light. All ships, this is Blake assuming command of the fleet, he announced as the surviving Devourer ships began retreating toward deep space. The enemy is withdrawing, but we have proven something very important today. When free species work together, when we combine our different strengths instead of fighting alone, we can stop them. In the weeks that followed, representatives from dozens of surviving civilizations arrived at Earth. The old coalition of lights was being reborn, but this time with humanity providing something that had been missing before, tactical innovation and the willingness to fight unconventionally when survival was at stake. Echo's mental voice carried hope for the first time since Blake had known the alien. Your species has given the galaxy something precious. Not just hope, but the knowledge that the Devourers can be defeated. The Rim worlds are no longer hiding. They are preparing to reclaim their lost homes. Blake nodded, though he knew the war was far from over. The Devourers will adapt and learn from this defeat. They will return with new strategies and better preparations. Then we will be ready for them, Dr. Hayes added, studying reports from across the galaxy. Every species they have driven into hiding is emerging now. For the first time in centuries, they are outnumbered. As Earth transformed into the command center for a new galactic alliance, humanity found itself in a position no one had ever imagined. They had become leaders not through conquest or superior technology, but through their unique combination of tactical thinking and willingness to stand up for others. The distress call that started everything, a desperate plea from dying refugees, had awakened something that would echo across the stars for generations.